Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. So it's Monday, and that can mean only one thing. Another video added to Return of the Primarchs. If you're joining me for the first time, this series is dedicated to looking at every Primarch returning back to the current 8th edition storyline, dead or alive. It's basically just me, fanboying, theorying, anything you want to call it. And we're carrying on with that white-haired god among men called Fulgrim. Mister, give me some nipple clamps because I like the feel of that. So let's jump in and let's discuss the potential return of Fulgrim in the 8th edition storyline. Now, it's quite interesting talking about Fulgrim returning to the 8th edition because he can actually return in two ways. He can actually return in his demonic form, or he can actually return as normal Fulgrim. But before we go down those theory roads and start discussing that, I'm just going to jump in and give a brief explanation of who Fulgrim is, what he did during the Great Crusade, and what led to his eventual downfall in the Horus Heresy. So Primarch Fulgrim was in command of the 3rd Legion of the Emperor's Children. The Emperor's Children are known to be artsmen. They're known to seek perfection. They love perfecting anything they put their mind to. That is art, sword play, warring, anything you can think of. They want to be the master of it, and they will seek any goal to try and do that. Now, Fulgrim is a very vain Primarch, to say the least. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who would like to punch him in his face, me being one of them, and I'm sure he has a couple of brothers who is going to actually do that in the story when we actually get to Terra. But the eventual downfall of Fulgrim was all down to basically a blade of Slanesh, and within this blade there was a demon, and he basically spoke to Fulgrim saying, "Hey Fulgrim, have you do you like nipple tassels and stuff like that?" And basically he was speaking, and before you knew it, Fulgrim was fully on the side of chaos, and he fell. Now, one of the reasons why Fulgrim basically gave himself over to chaos is because he met his brother Ferrus Manus on the field of battle, and he basically killed Ferrus Manus. To sum it up, he beheaded him, and at the sight of his brother's dead body on the battlefield, he just went insane. He was like, "What have I done? This is no, I love Ferrus. Ferrus is my bro." And he just said to the demon, "Do you know what? Take over me. I can't deal with this pain. It's just too much. I just can't deal with it. What have I done?" And the demon was like, "Do you know what? That's good for me. I'll take over your body and we'll go from here." So the demon took over Fulgrim, and you could probably say that from then on, Fulgrim died and the demon became Fulgrim, or so we think, because there's a story out called Reflection Cracked, where Fulgrim basically took over his body again. He basically was like, "Do you know what? Screw this. I'm going to be me again. Yep, I'm over Ferrus. I'm over his head rolling down the hill. I'm going to take my body back. I like it when people touch my nipples." So he took over his body, and he was back being Fulgrim again, which for me was kind of a bummer, because I preferred the old lore with, like, the tragedy of Fulgrim is that he killed his most beloved brother, and in seeing, you know, his wrong, he's basically the brother he loved. He basically gave himself over to chaos to be eternity just lost in despair and regret within the back of the mind of his own body. He didn't even control his own body. But now the new lore is that it was, you know, he just took over his body, and it was all A-okay in the end, and, you know, he's just going out doing his own thing. Not really too keen on the new lore, but, you know, a lot of people like it, but hey, that's just me. During the Horus Heresy, he did ascend to his demonic form. I think, if I think about it now, the only confirmed people to go full-on demon before the Siege of Terra is Fulgrim, Angron, and Mortarion. Mortarion's happens during the warp travel to Terra, if I'm not mistaken. Angron's happens during the burning of the 500 world, so that's way back. But Fulgrim turns into a beautiful little snake. His glorious snake form, he's slithering all over, and yeah, he is going to be in full demonic form when it comes to the Siege of Terra. It's actually going to be very, very fun, because if you thought Fulgrim was vain and unbearable in his normal form, wait till you meet demonic Primarch Fulgrim. There's a little bit of a blurb in the Dark Imperium book when Rebuti faces him, and it's when Rebuti gets his throat cut and put into stasis. And Fulgrim loves himself. Oh my holy emperor, does he love himself, and like how his body looks and how perfect it is. There's that word, perfection again. How much perfection he's achieved through chaos. So it's going to be interesting to see him actually on the field of Terra and see what he actually does. If I recall correctly, the old lore is that when the Emperor's children landed at the siege of Terra, they basically got bored with the siege and it's like, do you know what, screw this, we're going to go to the population that are not being protected, and we're going to have some Emperor's children fun. And they just did whatever they did. I don't even want to go down that route. Those poor civilians basically got everything inserted into every holes, and Fulgrim was just there watching with a big smirk on his face. I actually do hope he faces one of his brothers, one in particular, and that is Jagatai Khan. We actually spoke about this in the first Primarch returning video, about Jagatai Khan and his view on Fulgrim, and basically Fulgrim was always trying to bait Jagatai Khan because they were both known as being the best swordsmen in the Imperium, so Fulgrim wanted to prove that he was the best swordsman. Again, perfection, being perfect and stuff like that. There was a really cool scene, like when Fulgrim tried to like push him into a duel. He was like winding him up, saying, "I hear you do strange things to your ships, Jagatai." And Jagatai Khan turned around and went, "Well, I hear you do strange things to your warriors." And that was like the biggest burn that has ever happened in the Horushehr. That burn was so hot, it just dwarfed Istvan. That's how hot that burn was. Right, so that's your little brief introduction on Fulgrim. I say brief, that is very, very brief. There's a lot more stuff that happened. Go and read about him if you want to. There's loads of wikis and stuff out there. So let's look at the 8th edition storyline, and let's look at the potential return of Primarch Fulgrim. Now, as I stated at the start of the video, there's 2 ways he could return. One, which is the most common sense way, is his demonic self returns. Mr. Snakebod returns, but there's another way as well where he can return, and he can return back in his actual Primarch form. Now we'll start with the snake body since that's the most logical route to go down, and then we'll jump onto the normal Fulgrim body returning. So what we have now in the Codex, well, I say in the Codex, in the Gathering Storm books, when all the Gathering Storm stuff was happening, there was a little blurb, a little extract of text speaking about an Imperial Guard regiment going against this big, massive snake demon figure, just going across the galaxy, murdering. I think it stated he was laughing, and he was doing like all weird stuff. And most of like the article is like like inquisitorial, retracted and all that kind of stuff. GW teasing us, but it's there really in the writing saying that Fulgrim has returned in a way, and he is rampaging across the galaxy, bringing death to the Imperium. So let's say demonic Fulgrim does return. What does that mean for the tabletop sense? Firstly, that means a ton of Slaaneshi models, which I think is going to be most welcomed throughout the Chaos community, because I don't think Slaanesh has had that much love when it comes to tabletop, no pun intended, by the way. And I think having those models brought onto the tabletop, and especially a demonic Fulgrim with like all his arms and all his swords, and I think it would just look absolutely incredible, just to unleash that side on the tabletop. And, Chaos and Slaanesh deserve some love. They actually deserve some love. We've had Khorne stuff, we've had Zinch stuff, we've had Death Guard stuff, so I'm sure Slaanesh is definitely up in the future to be getting some loving and getting some focus when it comes to tabletop. Now, on the lore side of his return, this is what excites me the most, is that Fulgrim is a perfect candidate to return. I was actually hoping that Fulgrim would return before Mortarion or Magnus or something like that, because with Rebuti coming out of stasis, I think it makes the most sense for Fulgrim to return, because it was Fulgrim that put Rebuti in this way. Like I said, the Dark Imperium novel covers this somewhat when it opens up with that scene. It's a great book, by the way. You should go and get it. It really sets up the 8th edition. And Guilliman was basically led into a trap by Fulgrim. Guilliman, in his lust for revenge, and he just wanted to seek some retribution onto his brother Primarchs, was basically led into a trap, and that's what led to his downfall. And really, that's what led to the Imperium's downfall. Without Rebuti at the head of the ship steering it in the right direction, the Imperium basically just went into this stagnant formation, dying over 10,000 years. There's a bit of breath breathed back into the lungs of it now, since Rebuti has come back and is doing all these chantings and trying to get democracy back, and trying to lead from the front and stuff. But because Rebuti was basically slain in a way and put into stasis by Fulgrim, it more or less meant that the Imperium was defeated. So it sets up a great story, because if Fulgrim does come back and Rebuti sees that he comes back, he sees that this is the reason the Imperium is the way it is. Of course, you could probably say there's a lot of other things why the Imperium is the way it is, but he was one of the main reasons Rebuti was basically taken out the game. So Rebuti is going to be like, do you know what, right? I'm gonna show this little snake boy that I'm not messing around. I've got the Emperor's sword now. I've got my glorious Primarchs Marines. We're gonna go back. We're gonna hit Fulgrim, and we're gonna make him suffer. And I think, you know, there's like a campaign story there. There's of course multiple book stories there you can go on. Maybe Fulgrim just wants to come in and Fulgrim just wants to have fun. I don't think the demonic Primarchs care that much anymore. They're just here to slaughter. They're just here to purge. They're just here to please their gods now, and Fulgrim is just going to be unleashed. He's just going to be going over planets after planet after planet and just bringing pleasure, pain, suffering to anyone who he comes across, and Rebuti is just there to stop him. So I really do think it would make a very interesting, a very fun bit of the story if he did return as a demonic Primarch. Now, the next little step we could go with this is going into fantasy land now. Be aware. Come on, come with me, hold my hand. This is Fulgrim returning as normal Fulgrim, as not demonic Fulgrim, as Fulgrim during the Great Crusade. Now, this theory is potentially Fulgrim returning as a loyalist again. Remember we had that rumour some time back of a Primarch who was a traitor that came back loyalist? Maybe this is evidence to that rumor, but not in the way that we thought. You know, we thought maybe like Alfarius / Omegon may come back as, you know, be revealed as a loyalist all along. But with the book Clone Lord, it's a Fabius Bile book. Again, I'm briefly going to go over this. Go and get the books. Really, they're some of the best reading, well, audio. I'd listen to the audiobooks that I've ever listened to. It's absolutely incredible. And there's a clone of Fulgrim now, an actual perfect clone of Fulgrim, not in demonic form, Great Crusade / Horus Heresy clone of Fulgrim. What basically happens is when you clone a Primarch, they keep their memories. Their memories are stored in their blood, so he has all the memories and stuff like this. Now, I'm just going to read this little extract from the book Clone Lord, because it really puts into perspective where Fulgrim, well, clone Fulgrim's mind is. It says, "This will be that spark, his hands clenched. I will burn away the sins of the past, all the failures and imperfections, all my crimes." He hesitated, and she started realizing his hands were clenched so tightly that blood was dripped from between his fingers. "Ferris, oh my brother, I am so sorry. I am so sorry I was not stronger." His words were soft, and she thought that he had forgotten her entirely. So that extract basically summarizes that the new Fulgrim, the clone Fulgrim, knows the sins of the past, because, like we said, the blood and all, you know, what happens and stuff like that, and he's not going to go down that route. Of course, there's more stuff that happens in that Clone Lord book, but I don't really want to go down there and stuff like that. But there's potentially now a storyline for Fulgrim to come back into the picture and be a loyalist, which is, for me, is absolutely incredible. In a way, they're kind of setting it up if you look at the evidence, because there's a Primarchs chapter called Sons of the Phoenix, and apparently this is they're an Imperial 5th successor. But if you go and look for Sons of the Phoenix, just go and do it. Just after this video, go and look up Sons of the Phoenix and go and tell me that they are Imperial 5th successors. No. Holy Emperor, no. They are definitely related to the Emperor's children. They're just too fabulous to be anything related to the Imperial Fists. So what would happen if Fulgrim came back as, you know, normal Fulgrim, not Chaos Fulgrim, came back? How would that go down? I think it'd be, again, amazing for the story, because I wonder, like, what his conversation would be if he like met Rebuti. Like, Rebuti, I'm so sorry. Would Rebuti forgive him? Would he even trust him? Would he attack him? I think it gives more questions than really answers. I actually do prefer this version of Fulgrim coming back. Do you know what? Maybe they both come back. Maybe demonic Fulgrim and clone Fulgrim fight each other. How awesome would that be? Fulgrim on Fulgrim? I think that'd be really cool, and hopefully normal Fulgrim wins, and then maybe that proves to, like, Gilliman that he is loyal, and he gets, like, back into the trust and all that kind of stuff. But then what does that mean for the Emperor's children as well? Does that mean, like, some of them? No, the Emperor's children can't come back or anything like that. It's just, yeah, it sets up just some just really strange possibilities in the 8th edition lore. But I personally think that it goes down some of the most interesting routes because there's so much you can do. There's so much story surrounding normal Fulgrim returning and coming back to the Imperium. Alright, Chaperonios, that's me done for another video. Really enjoyed doing this one. Fulgrim, good or bad? If he does return, what do you think? Do you think it could be good? Do you think it could be bad? What do you think of good guy Fulgrim possibly returning? Clone Fulgrim returning? How do you think that would go down? As always, leave a comment in the comment section, of course, about which Primarch you'd like me to cover next, and I'll get all them together, and the most that gets spoken about gets the next video. So thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I shall see you all very soon. See you now, and bye bye.